How many elderly people have to pass away from neglect before something's done?
Strong words from a woman who just learned the facility she trusted to take care of her elderly grandmother is on a troubling list. Last week, we showed you a list of elderly treatment facilities deemed to be underperforming by the federal government. There was plenty of reaction on social media,
including one woman who was willing to describe the conditions her grandmother faced at Green Hills Health and Rehab. Lauren Lowry has her story.
Yeah, Tamara Teague described the conditions in great detail, from the grandmother being dirty to watching her eat a snack like an animal because she was starving. Tamara says her grandmother was in the center being treated for dementia. She says the first warning sign was that every time she went in, it seemed like there was a new staff. She didn't recognize anyone from one visit to the next, and she says it only got worse from there.
She would be hungry a lot. She would look unkempt. Her nose would be crusted over. You know, she'd have crumbs around her mouth. She looked dirty. Her diaper would be wet.
Teague's grandmother was on the waiting list for several facilities, but Green Hills was the only place with space that could deal with her condition. And by the time she was in the center, the grandmother was not very verbal, so she couldn't describe the conditions to her family.
My grandmother was a woman. She was a human with a real life, a long life, and she was a beautiful person, and she did not deserve the type of treatment and the neglect that she received at that facility. And I blame the staff.
In 2012, the facility called the family saying she had a foot wound. You're looking at a photo. We blurred out the spots where gangrene has set in. 3 days after the facility called saying she had a cut on her foot, 3 toes had to be amputated. Instead of amputation and prolong her life, they felt it would be less painful for her grandmother to just pass. She died 6 weeks later, and we reached out to Green Hills. They directed us to their national media line. We called it for a comment, but it was after hours, so we'll reach out again tomorrow. Tracy.
Lauren Lowry, thank you. This is not the first time the center has been called out for treatment. Back in 2017, the state shut down all new admissions. At the time, the state was looking into multiple complaints and a failed inspection. The facility was ordered to pay a $15,000 fine based on the conditions inside. Now, this all comes after the federal government released what was a secret list of troubled centers. There were 11 here in Tennessee, 3 right here in the mid-state. Among them, Green Hills Health and Rehabilitation Center, Creekside Center for Rehabilitation and Healing, Life Care Center of Columbia. You can find all 11 on WSMV.com.